Hey everyone, we're all flooded with advice on how to make a startup succeed, right? Books, articles, so-called gurus, they all seem to have the secret formula. But have you ever stopped to ask where that knowledge actually comes from? And what if the very science it's built on is, well, broken?
That's really the big question we're tackling. Because if the studies that give us these rules are full of holes, then we're all basically building on shaky ground. So today, we're going to play detective. We're going to uncover a huge problem in how we study entrepreneurship and then reveal a brilliant solution that's been hiding in plain sight this whole time.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to find that crack in the code of scientific research. Then, we'll round up the four main culprits, we'll call them the usual suspects, that are causing all the trouble. After that, we meet a very unlikely hero from the digital world, see exactly how it cracks the case, and finally, look at the amazing new rules of research that this opens up for all of us.
Look, starting a business is incredibly high stakes. People are betting their savings, their careers, their entire futures. And because of that, researchers are under a ton of pressure to find reliable, evidence-based answers for what works. But what if the very methods they're using have a fundamental flaw, one that's undermining everything they're trying to build?
To find out, two researchers, Herman Aguinis and Sola Lawal, went right to the source. They spent a ton of time digging through 5 years' worth of studies in a top journal. We're talking 175 different articles. And they weren't just reading the exciting conclusions. They were reading the fine print, the boring part at the end where the authors have to admit the limitations of their own work. And what they found was honestly pretty shocking. It wasn't 1,000 different little problems. Nope. The same handful of issues just kept popping up over and over again. Their investigation pointed to four main suspects. Four big methodological flaws that consistently poison the research we all rely on.
And the scale of this problem is just huge. Get this, these four issues alone are responsible for over 77% of all the problems the researchers themselves reported. The biggest offender, generalizability, accounts for nearly a third of all issues by itself. So think about that. It means that 3 times out of 4, when a study admits it has a weakness, it's one of these same 4 culprits.
Okay, so what are these suspects really? Let's break them down. First, generalizability. That's simple. What you learn from studying a group of business students in California might tell you absolutely nothing about tech founders in Berlin. Second, omitted variables. This is the classic mistake. You see that ice cream sales and shark attacks go up at the same time. Do ice cream sales cause shark attacks? No, you've missed the real cause, hot weather. Third, poor measurement. This is like trying to weigh a feather with a truck scale. You're just using the wrong tool. And finally, unclear causality. This is a big one. We see a link, say, successful founders are really optimistic. But did their optimism cause their success, or did being successful make them optimistic? Most studies just can't tell you.
So, we've got our 4 suspects. And they seem to be getting away with it because they're just so hard to pin down with old-school research methods. But the solution, the hero of our story, comes from somewhere totally unexpected. Not from a university, not from a high-tech lab, but from the gig economy.
Let me introduce you to our hero, eLancing. It's really just a fancy word for online freelancing marketplaces. You know, platforms like freelancer.com, guru.com, or maybe Amazon's Mechanical Turk. They're basically just websites that connect people who need work done with freelancers all over the world who can do it.
And we are not talking about some tiny little corner of the internet here. This is a massive, global ecosystem. These platforms have millions of users. That scale is absolutely crucial because it gives researchers access to something they could only dream of before, a gigantic, truly diverse pool of people to learn from.
And it's not just about the number of people. It's about real business. We're talking billions of dollars changing hands on these platforms every single year. And that's key. It means the work is real, the motivations are real, the money is real. We're not in a sterile lab with hypothetical games anymore. We're in a living, breathing economy.
Now, you might be thinking this workforce is probably just from a few countries, but that's not true at all. One study found that nearly half the workers on a major platform were from the US, and over half had some college education. This is a global, diverse, and really skilled population. Remember that number 1 suspect, generalizability? Well, this is basically the perfect kryptonite for it.
Okay, so what's the big idea here? Where is this all going? The breakthrough is this. These eLancing platforms are not just for getting a logo designed or a website built. They are, in fact, perfect, real-world laboratories for doing incredible science.
This chart really shows you why this is such a game changer. With something like a survey, researchers have basically zero control over all the different things going on in someone's life. But with an eLancing experiment, they have a ton of control. The realism? It's through the roof, because people are doing real work for real money. And here's the kicker. You can randomly assign people to different groups. That is the absolute gold standard for proving cause and effect. It's the best of both worlds. You get the control of a lab, but in a real-world setting. The researchers who figured this out put it perfectly. The power here is that you can use real people and real tasks in a controlled environment. You're not asking college students to pretend to be entrepreneurs for an hour. You're hiring actual professionals to do actual entrepreneurial tasks, like building a real business plan.
So, how does this actually play out? It's pretty simple, really. A researcher posts a real job, like, I need a marketing plan. Then, they hire people from all over the world right there on the platform. Third, and this is the magic part, they change one little thing. Maybe they randomly put people into teams of 3 versus teams of 5. Or they give one group really positive feedback and another group really critical feedback. Fourth, they measure what happens, the quality of the work, how the team communicated, everything. And finally, of course, they tell the participants about the study and pay them for their time.
So let's bring it all back to our 4 suspects. How does this new method capture them? Well, the generalizability problem? Solved by the massive global pool of people. Those annoying omitted variables? Gone, because the researchers have total control. The poor measurement issue? Researchers can design the perfect task to measure exactly what they want to know. And the big one? Unclear causality? The true experimental design lets you prove what causes what. It's like this method was tailor-made to take down every single one of those major flaws.
And this really isn't just some small tweak to how we do things. It's a fundamental breakthrough. It changes the rules of the game and opens up this entirely new frontier for discovery, letting us ask questions that honestly were just impossible to answer before.
Just think about the questions we can finally answer. How does putting a marketing expert on a team instead of an engineer actually change its creativity in real time? We can build cross-cultural teams from scratch and watch how they really work together. We can even give a team a setback on purpose and precisely measure how they respond to failure. These are the deep, meaningful questions that we can now start to answer with real evidence.
You know, the biggest takeaway here goes way beyond just startups. This whole approach transforms the entire digital economy into a massive and pretty cheap laboratory. It's a completely new way of doing science, using the digital world we've already built to understand ourselves on a scale we've just never seen before.
Which leaves us with one last really interesting thought to chew on. If online work platforms can be labs for science, what other parts of our digital world, from our social media networks to the massive communities in online games, are also just hidden laboratories waiting for someone to find the right key? It feels like the code's been cracked, and the future of understanding how we all work and create is really just beginning. Thanks for joining me.